Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is still Rapid Done right here on Rapid Television. And of course, right now it is time for the big conversation. And my name is Victor RK.
My name is Martha Alu. Good morning and welcome to the 9 o'clock hour where we have the big conversation literally centered on Nigeria's today diplomatic concerns.
That's right. Of course, Nigeria is looking for ways to grow its economy, to create jobs, and of course, improve how business is done in the country. And one major area of focus is trade, how goods come in and go out of Nigeria. Very recently, the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, visited the United Kingdom, where Nigeria signed a deal worth about £745 million to modernize the Apapa and Tin Can Island ports in Lagos. Now, these ports are very important because a large part of Nigeria's trade passes through them. For many years as well, these ports have faced serious problems, traffic congestion, delays, and old equipment. And this new deal, according to what we're being told, is expected to fix some of these issues, make movement of goods faster, and improve business activities. But the big question we're asking is, what does this really mean for Nigeria's economy? Will it reduce costs, create jobs, and improve daily life for Nigerians? To help us understand this better, we are joined by an economist, Dr. Emmanuel Akani. Good morning to you, Doctor. Thanks for being here with us.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Welcome, sir. Now, let's begin with the 745 million pounds deal that was signed between Nigeria and the United Kingdom, of course, for the port, the Tin Can port and the Apapa port. And from what we hear, the both ports actually amount for about 70% of the import and export duties that goes on in our country, Nigeria. But with this investment that is being brought on board, how would these affect businesses in Nigeria?
Okay, so thank you. Like you said, 70. In fact, in some climate is said to be 80%. Account for 80% of most of the importation we do. So let me bring it to the layman's way so that people have a better understanding of this implication of this deal. So if you are married, you have kids, they are grown up, they are graduated from university, you're beginning to have grandchildren.
Yeah.
And they walk up to you and say, Daddy, we will take you out of this same house you've lived for over 40, 50 years. We'll move into an hotel apartment. You'll be there for 30 days. Within the range of that 30 days, we are going to work on your house. Now, what they want to do is more or less convert the house you've lived in for over 40, 50 years to a smart house where on your phone you can switch on the lights, you can do whatever. You can actually monitor the security of the house from any part of the world you have.
Okay.
Will you say no to your children?
Probably not.
Aha, good. So that's where we've come to. We have about 6 ports, say 7 with Lekki Deep for 7 in Nigeria. And you want to ask yourself, these ports have existed for how many years now? I mean, in 1920s, I think one was 1977. So if you talk about infrastructure, you will tell me we can't get the maximum benefits we should get from it because they've been over the years now. And we are saying these same ports account for about 80% of the business activities in Nigeria.
Right.
So shouldn't we ask for an upgrade of that facility? Shouldn't we deploy? Because part of this deal covers not just export, but to also bring in digital infrastructure.
Right.
So we can't continue to maintain a facility that is getting dilapidated where the value we're getting from it is reducing by the day. And now there's an opportunity for a deal to upgrade it, to bring in digital technology into it, and we want to say no to it. I think that is completely wrong. The essence of this deal is to ensure that more export activities can be done there, is to also include some digital infrastructure. 3 is to reduce the turnaround time. You know, sometimes you get to port, you take time, you are busy processing these people, doing that paper. It takes time. But with technology, you're able to beat time and a lot of things will be done faster. Some payment that you have to do, taking papers here and there, you just with a swipe on your phone or your card, it's done. The other person gets credited and then you move on. So the deal is a good one.
Okay.
But just like we all believe, everything that has an advantage also comes with its disadvantage. So part of what people have challenged, which I also agree with, is that the only port in Nigeria?
Exactly.
And this deal is coming to the southwest. The
Yeah.
southwestern part, is that only where Nigeria makes money? This deal, another challenge of course is you said 745. I think about 236 million is going back to the British government
Right.
Exactly.
for steel. Where's our Jakarta steel industry? Where's our Oshogo rolling steel industry? Why can't we get the steel from those sources? But of course, like I said,
Yeah.
you will not say to your children, don't renovate the house. You will want to enjoy the new house and some of those things, you know. So it's a good one, but one thing I want Nigerians to understand is this. When you make a mistake, you don't sit over it. The question you ask yourself is, so how do we move on from here?
Okay.
So I want us to put aside whether the deal was properly done, because some people said we didn't go through tender process. I mean, if you look at it, did you see the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy in that trip?
But regardless of the fact that we had those people present, and I'm glad you made mention of the fact that the major concern here is the loan structure, which is, we will definitely pay back the money, export-backed financing, which means that about 236 million pounds returns to the economy out of 746. You see, so the agreement that was made with the Nigerian government, I mean, alongside the UK government, is the fact that all of these suppliers or all of the items that we would need to fix the tin can and apapa would come from the UK, thereby fixing their own steel industry. So it's like we are receiving money, but we are giving the money back, right? How can we correct this? Yes, the maritime body was there, the head of the maritime industry was there. People that are, in fact, I saw the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he was also there. Minister of Solid Minerals was there, he was also there. So these are people that would have carefully looked at the contract that was going to be signed between the UK and Nigerian government. But if these people are there and we still have these kind of concerns as regards the loan structure, how can we correct this? Because look at the number.
Yeah. So, well, with the deal has been done already. We won't decline or say, take back your money, we don't want it. And like I said, if there's a mistake, let's just be for a way of moving forward. The terms of the deal are not clear yet to anybody. At what interest rate was this deal made? That is not clear to anybody. But the most important thing we should be concerned about is the purpose this deal was done. Are we going to actually use it for the purpose?
Actually.
For me, like you said, how do we correct this? First, set up a monitoring and evaluation committee that will look at how this deal will be done, or how the monies will be deployed, how the infrastructures will come in. The companies, I learned there's a Nigerian company that is part of it, even though we were told that company is actually more about high-rise building, but they've been qualified to be able to do the job. I don't have a problem with that. We need to correct this by having a monitoring team that will look at every phase of this project.
Yeah.
Another important thing to correct that is also to know what is going to be the duration of this project. Is it going to be for 6 months? Is it going to be for 1 year or 2 years? And there is something about public accountability. Whatever you've approved, whatever will be done, there should be a visibility to the public. The public should say, okay, oh, this was what was given, this is what has been done. It shouldn't be hidden. Because the major problem we have largely with our government is that a lot of things are being signed, a lot of deals are being approved, a lot of contracts are being awarded, but nobody has clarity of when the contract is starting, when it is ending, who and who is this. Sometimes we get to know the name of the contractor, but we get to see another contractor executing the job. So having a monitoring team first is a major way to correct this. The monitoring team is going to keep the public aware of what is to be done. When is this project starting?
When is it finishing?
What are the phases of the project? 6 phases? 10 phases? For each of the phase, how many months?
Okay.
How much is marked for each of the phase? And when will they get through? So if we have a monitoring and evaluation team, it's going to reduce the doubts and the noise in the public. Oh, we don't even know what they are doing. And after that is to begin to look inward, so that we don't have this as a repeated case. What are we doing about our own Jakarta steel industry? What are we doing about Oshogo? Because, you know, like I said, if a mistake has been made, we don't need to sit over it. Somehow, this deal is also going to create job opportunities. A lot of people are going to be invited to work and all that. A lot of people will have their supplies and all those other things. But It would have been better if that's about 236 million pounds is coming into our own economy because we need it.
True.
But like I said, what we've gotten, if you can make good use of it, you know, a son can say to the father, "Oh, daddy, you don't give me this, you don't give me that," and the father will say, "The one I've given you, what have you done with it?"
Talking about the ones that's been given, basically, because you've mentioned the job opportunities. You know, so that's one of the benefits that comes from this particular trade, this deed rather that has been signed. But alongside the trade deed has been signed as well, there's also a place for investment and trade, basically as that. And UK happens to be the second largest trade partners that we have in Nigeria. As at 2025, profit of about 3.2 million pounds was gotten, you know, from the arrangement that was given. Now, if we're talking about job opportunities as well, what are the specific job opportunities you think can be created with these deals that has been made very recently?
Okay, thank you. So, there's a report by ISIS Africa, the future of Africa. Is a report that talks about what Africa is going to look like from now to 2043.
Okay.
For Nigeria, they said our population was going to be 350 million as at that time. And if we continue this way, we'll have more poor people than we have now. And then they also profile solutions. And one of the first solutions is to improve on our manufacturing industry. Now, so this is going to also impact that sector. And we're going to have a lot of engineering works that will be done. So what it means is for all of our engineers, civil engineer, whatever it is, mechanical and all sort of, they are going to have opportunity to be part of this. And of course, we have the labor force in Nigeria. We have quite a number of persons who have the expertise but have less to do. So this is going to actually bring opportunity. And the good thing is there's a way it cascades down even to the public. So you are going to have a lot of people having food industry, doing a lot of activities in that area. And another thing is also that it will give opportunity for those in the transport sector also to be able to get materials. Now, one of the major impact that for me that is quite fascinating, which I love, is the fact that it's going to bring a lot of collaborations. And as we are as a country, like some people said, is it right for us to be getting another loan at this time? And I said, what's the benefit of diplomatic ties? For a country like ours, we need all of these ties because we need to collaborate. A lot of countries started behind us and they are far ahead of us because we were able to collaborate diplomatically and get resources. So this is also going to be a lot of collaboration. It's also going to give opportunity for research. Companies who have not been involved in this will see other companies who are doing it and begin to take interest in it. For a lot of our young people also, it's going to be another area of learning, like a train-to-train kind of experience. They see what is being done, they learn, and it's going to bring the relationship. Most importantly, you are going to have new relationship. You are meeting. Of course, we know some, even though it's not said, we know a lot of British experts will be involved in this as well. Yeah. So it's going to bring opportunities for our own engineers also to learn about modern works. I mean, you know, have understanding of new engineering tools and how to use them.
Even looking at that as well, right? Because some of the concerns that I see, that I've also seen on the public space, is that some of this investment coming on board might overshadow the SMEs that we have here in our country, Nigeria. Because from the benefits you've mentioned, now it's about the foreigners coming on board, train our local engineers here. But that also seems to be overshadowing these individuals because they might be coming in or will be coming in as the higher people, like the elite.
So they'll definitely be paid much more than the engineers
benefit goes more to them than our own people here in the country, Nigeria. That's a concern. How can we also mitigate this to ensure that SMEs in Nigeria can actually get proper benefit?
Do we want to grow or want to remain the same way we have?
Of course we all want
to grow. But the better way, if you ask me, would be to have our engineers also go there to be trained before the project commences. Don't you think that that's like it? Because we had seen China do that. We saw China do that. China sent, you know, engineers, skilled people from within their country into different parts of the world. They learned those skills. They learned all of those that will be necessary for the growth of China. And they all came back to their country to develop it. So I feel like we keep outsourcing what we should actually capitalize on to have more. What is because there are two sides of every diplomatic agreement. What is announced and what was actually negotiated between the country and what we see basically. So I feel like there would have been more benefit if we made more we negotiate more for the benefit of our people much more than that. And this is like one of the major ways that we would have benefited. Train our engineers and they will collaborate to do the project rather than bringing your engineers in?
Okay, thank you. So I think I will need to remind you this. If you are getting a deal from somebody, you are getting a loan. Who is at the mercy of you?
Oh, there's
So
that
you know
part.
they are bringing their money. You can't tell them everything.
But we're
you're not going to tell them how they are going to run their thing, or they pull back. The thing is, let's go back to.
Do you think we are giving less? Because from what you have said now, it's looking like we are giving less. And if you look at the deal, I'm sure you have critically analyzed the deal. We are not actually giving less.
I want to take you back to our railway projects in Nigeria.
Okay.
Done by the Chinese companies. What did they do? We got the loan. They did majority of the job. They brought in their guys, the engineers. Our own engineers were supporting, they were with them. But largely you have the Chinese guys almost everywhere. Some of the materials that were brought, if you look at the books, you look at the manual, they were written in Chinese language, they were not in Nigerian language.
But is that how it's supposed to be?
So,
is that how it's supposed to be? Because we are talking about partnership right here. Not one party basically stepping on the others. So it's a partnership, a collaboration is supposed to be. So
you are the one seeing it that way, that somebody is stepping on the other. The person who is giving the money is not seeing it that way. The person is interested in how he's also not going to run at a loss.
I also told you right now that in 2025,
yes.
I mean, the profit that was also made was around 3.2 billion pounds as a profit from diplomatic ties and businesses that
So they also benefit from migration. They benefit a lot from us. So I just believe that Nigeria, we don't go to the table with enough negotiation power or negotiation strength, because we actually have a lot that they want. Out of 746, you are taking back about 260 of that amount back to your country. Your engineers will be, remember, that's not even workmanship for the job that the engineers will come back to do. So if you ask me, about 30 to 40% of that amount of money still goes back to the UK government. How do we work on this as a country? Because time and again, when all of these contracts are agreed on, we end up being at the less beneficial side than the country that we are partnering with.
Okay, so like I said, if we don't have the clarity of the terms and condition of that contract, and it's also possible that even if we are given the contract, you may not be able to read in details what exactly was agreed on. I want to believe the government has been fair enough to do their own due diligence and ensure that we are not completely losing out. But like I said, for me, I think what is most important is to see what we can gain from this. Like you said about partnership, collaboration, I believe that will be done. But to say we want to negotiate for it to be exactly the way we want it, that is going to be a difficult conversation. I mean, one of the economists said that do we know how long we're going to pay this debt? That is anybody thinking about that? But you see, those are issues, those are mistakes already made. We can't keep talking about it. We can't keep shouting, you are going to overshadow our SMEs and all that stuff. No. The most important thing for us should be, how do we ensure that this money is appropriately channeled to do what is expected to do? I bet you, once they are able to do this and this port starts working, it's going to impact our economy. For me, most important is the digital infrastructure, because I don't want to talk about the level of corruption that happens in those areas. I don't want to talk about the struggle we have with some of our friends who are on their own, who are trying to do business, bring stuff in, and they have to wait, and you are making this space. Somebody is asking you to come back, somebody is saying we have not seen, and all of that stuff. I saw a video about 2 weeks ago of somebody who brought in some cars and some things were missing. And he was challenging people that, no, you do this all the time. He put it on video and said, if you want to kill me, I'm going to say this.
That's another part of the conversation I was even hoping to explore with you.
So, all of this will be taken care of. And if those things are taken care of, then we have less problem and we are progress. And you see, for us as a country, our progress is a journey. So it's one step at a time. Hopefully that this will be done as expected, and we'll move on from there. And for me, what I also think should be our concern is, so how do we also ensure that what we've done with our Papa ports is also taken to other ports in the country where they are lively and the businesses are well? That's one. Another thing for me that should be our concern is also to ensure, to see how we can spread this to other sector of the economy. Because if you are managing a federation, you have to have a balanced approach to what you're doing. And don't forget, which I don't want us to shy our eyes away from, is the fact that Overton is also coming on board to also establish their own factory. And I mean, maybe we will stop taking more of Milo and Peak Milk now. Maybe we'll move to Ovaltine. So you know,
personal preferences
yeah,
also plays a
Personal
role there.
because you know the taste. We all know the taste of that.
So,
Okay.
and then probably it will come in more affordable to Nigerians than what we have on ground. So you also want to look at that. So if you want to put our eyes just on one part of it, we will lose the essence of this deal. So let's look at other benefits it's bringing to us as a country. Like I said, the most important thing for me is to see a monitoring and evaluating thing set up to monitor every bit of this contract to ensure that it is done within time. As a matter of fact, we don't even know whether everything is going to be done before this government leaves, or maybe it's still going to flow over. I don't know. But like I said, we don't have clarity of the terms of the contract. But the most important thing, Nigerians want to see things happening. In my university days, we had a new visit that came, and the prices of our school fees were increased, hotel accommodation, a lot of things, and everybody started complaining. But you know what? One day we were on in school, we saw 2 trucks came in with industrial generator. They installed it, and within 2 weeks, it was on.
Constant.
Each time there is no light, we don't even have an issue. They switch it on. They brought 2, as a matter of fact. 7 to 10 p.m. you have light, then another one picks from 12 to 4 a.m. You know, the noise, what is this VC doing? The noise started dying down because people were seeing the impact of what they were being paid for. So Nigerians are concerned about, what do you do with this money?
Right.
How do we ensure that whether the British government is taking about 236 million and we have just 501 million pounds from my estimation, it shouldn't be a concern. It's not even a concern to Nigerians to see that this port is working. And the problem of the congestion, I hope you know that the problem we already had is about congestion.
Right.
Now, the fact that you are fixing it is also not going to reduce the congestion, but largely it's just going to make a business a bit more easier than it is before. So we also need to begin to look at that. So how can we begin to decongest our ports? And one of the way we can decongest is to get other ports active. The Akwa Ibom port is in fact, I saw the Akwa Ibom governor there. I saw the Senate president there, and I was thinking,
why didn't you negotiate for your own state?
You know, sometimes if you go to some place, even they are not talking about you. For the fact that you are there, you
talk about
but I'm sure at that point, I don't think that's a discussion that would have happened. I'm sure this discussion have started before now. It was just going to seal the deal.
All right, let's get into another aspect, because you have mentioned like bits of what I was going to ask for the next question, which you said, you gave an example of a guy who had bought a car and said, you're always doing this and all of that. So I hope I'm able to articulate this properly. Yeah. Now we have an issue of recolonization. This is one of the issues that Nigerians have raising. I hope that we're going to the negotiation table with our heads intact, just so we don't sign ourselves over again for a second time. So when we have all of this pushback, you also have to remember that we have a trajectory of oppression with this nation that we are now signing a deal with, which means that we have to be extremely careful when we go to the table to negotiate with them, which will lead to the very next question. Now, you talked about these people sending in things into Nigeria. In fact, it's not the first time where the things that are being imported into Nigeria, we have had issues of substandard materials. In fact, let's take a look at solar panels. Yeah. We have had issues of substandard and, in fact, hazardous solar panels imported into Nigeria. Some of them have exploded in buildings and has made the buildings catch fire and all of that. In about 2022-2023, we also had an issue where we signed a deal with the Chinese government for some of these traffic lights we see here in Nigeria. Go and take a stock of those traffic lights. How many of them are actually working, still working right now as we speak? So there's an issue of the quality of the materials that will be coming into Nigeria to fix the Apapa steel. Who checks the feasibility? Who checks the quality, like quality control basically, of these materials? Because we can go sign a deal to come fix our ports and sign a deal for these people to get the amount of money or to supply us the steel. They supply the steel, and in 2 years' time, we're talking about the same kind of deal again. We might not look at it as the recolonization, how we will see it, right? But if you take a look at it, we are also having some level of dependence, because after 2 years, we have to go back to refix. 2 years, we have to go back to refix. How do you think we can make sure that this is controlled before the project even commences?
Okay, thank you. So this comes to we taking responsibility for ourselves. We have NAFDAC.
Okay. We
have Standard Organization of Nigeria.
Okay.
We have, I don't know, this association that takes care of all the engineers in Nigeria. We also have, so I will give you an experience, I think dated back to 2017 or 2018 thereabouts. Then I was in the pharmaceutical sector. And we had one of Keftrazone that was coming into the country, en route South Africa. Now, a quality assurance test has been done, and it was shipped to South Africa. From South Africa, it will come to Nigeria. Now, in South Africa, they checked and discovered there's a level of impurity, I think less than 0.3% impurity in that product.
Okay.
Immediately, they asked that the product be destroyed. I'm talking of products in billions of dollars, just because it was discovered in South Africa. So the question you want to ask yourself is, a product is coming all the way from, so to say, Europe or wherever it is, where you expect all standard and maintain, everything has been checked.
Right.
And got to a country like South Africa, and South Africa said, look, we did our own quality assurance check again and discover a percentage of impurity in the product. And sent a mail, spoke to the organization involved, and they said, no, we can't push it further. So it's either you destroy or you send it back to us to destroy.
Okay.
So who does that? South Africa, taking responsibility. So we have our own standard organization of Nigeria. So if breaches or whoever is sending anything to us, should they take responsibility for monitoring for us? Should they take responsibility for checking the standard of the product? No, that should be our own responsibility.
Can we return it? Do we have a portion of the agreement that states that when these materials are tested and are substandard, it can be returned to the country?
So that ordinarily should be part of the contract. If I'm asking you to give me a rod 16 mm, if I'm getting the rod, I'm checking if it is 15.9, then I should return it back to you.
Because it's not part of the deal.
Yes, it's not part of the deal.
What if it was not signed? Because you have said we don't fully know the agreement that was signed. We still see lapses regardless of the authorities that were present at the time of that signing. So what is the guarantee that we have this figured in?
Well, I think I'm not really, I believe in constructive criticism. I don't think these governments would have been so weak not to have done all their checks and balances in the contract. I'm sure, even though I expected the parliament to have an understanding of this deal, go through it and have a robust discussion, bring in some other economic experts to look at it together. I expect that, but I want to believe that probably was secretly done. Maybe that was done, it's
not
just
in
that
the eyes
we
of
don't
the
know about
public.
it. Because you really may not want to bring everything to the public. Let some people also take advantage of you. I have been part of several tender. Tender is meant to be open, everybody is meant to participate, but you know, sometimes if there's a particular product you have interest in and you know the people need it, you may want to have a background discussion with the company. So I want to assume a due diligence has been done on the part of the government, but like I said, we need to take responsibility for ourselves. Anybody brings anybody is free to bring anything to this country. Does it meet our standard? If it doesn't meet our standard, you take it back at your own expense. Or we won't keep it here and make you to pay fine for it. So whatever is our responsibility should not be given to another person. I don't want to care about whatever agreement was made on the standard. I want to be sure we have our own engineers. We have the expertise to check what works for us and what does not work for us. Why do we have some road contract after a year or two they get spoiled? What was the initial agreement? If it was done to standard, why in 2 or 6 months or in 1 year time, why should we have to go back to re-award the same contract? That's nobody's responsibility. That's our own responsibility to check. Yes, to check, to look at what they are bringing to us. So if those still, somebody once said that I hope we don't resign another deal in another 2 or 3 years. Do you blame anybody for that? So that's our own problem. We have the bodies who monitors a lot of these things that have been brought into the country. So where are they? They should rise to the occasion to check before anything is deployed. Check and ensure that the standard, the agreed ranges are what is being followed, and then you can use it. So that's our own responsibility.
All right. What's he talking about the UK-Nigerian deal that was signed recently when the president traveled down to the United Kingdom, what it means for Nigerians. We've been talking with Dr. Emmanuel Akani, but right now we're going to break. When we'll come back, we'll delve even deeper into the conversation. Do stay with us. Glad to be back on the conversation. This morning we're still talking about the Nigeria-UK deal that was signed very recently, and of course what that means for our country, Nigeria. Our guest, Dr. Emmanuel Akani, has been answering our questions. Once again, thank you so much, Doctor, for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we see that currently the port contributes 3% to the Nigeria's GDP. Right. Of course, the economic growth is one thing that we're looking forward to seeing that after the modernization of the sport, that it could boost it. But looking at the fact that currently it's a 3% contribution from the port industry, do you think that after this is done, that there's going to be a significant boost in our contribution to the GDP of our nation?
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, the impact of technology or digital infrastructure in the port is to ensure that activities are done faster, transactions are done within short time, and then of course whatever we are repatriating comes on time. So I expect that that should be a boost to our GDP. If you recall, I said something. I said our turnaround time is expected to change owing to the fact that the digital infrastructure is going to be made available in the port now. So I expect a major impact on our GDP actually. And like I said before, is if we will do it the way it should be done, and with the timeline, that's when we will see that. But if this execution of this deal begins to take more than necessary, then we are not going to move anywhere from here. We will still remain where we are. So, but if this is done, I bet it will impact our GDP. And like I said, not just our GDP, it also creates more opportunities for people to be able to come on board. We need technology in all phases of our governments. We need technology in all phases of our business as a nation, because it's going to bring a lot of change to how we do our things. I'll give you a very, very, very light example that should be fascinating. If you go to the hospital, for instance, and maybe 5 years ago, if you go to the hospitals, the moment you get to the hospital, you'll be asked to sit down. They ask for your name. They say, let's get your file. Let's look for your folder. And for another 30 minutes, they are busy looking for your folder, your file. Why? Because the doctor will need your medical history before they have a conversation with you. So the least it takes 37 minutes from one of the research I read to get your folder. Okay, I'm just trying to talk about the impact of technology. But now if you go to the hospital, you just give them your name, and just with a click, they get your medical history. They send you to the nursing station. From there, they send you to the lab. You are seeing a doctor. As you're done seeing a doctor, they are sending you to the pharmacy. They are not giving you paper. They just tell you go to the pharmacy. While you are sitting in the pharmacy, they call your name and say, this is your drugs. You don't. So the time before, maybe it takes 1 hour 15 minutes for everything you are going to do in the hospital. Now it takes less than 30 minutes to do that. That's the impact of technology. That's what we expect in the ports. There are activities that takes over 1 hour, 2-3 hours to be done. With technology, it should be done within 30 minutes and even less. So if that happens, then it means we can do more, and then it will impact our GDP. So that's where I wanted to see it from, that technology should bring a major change.
There are other aspects of this agreement that was entered into by the Nigerian and the UK government, and part of it would be to receive exhausted asylum seekers and also deported Nigerians back into Nigeria. And the report says that we have about 961 Nigerians that have exhausted asylum seeking. We also have about 1,100 offenders awaiting deportation into Nigeria. Now the question is, while we are already binded by international laws to receive our people but ensure integration and upholding of their human rights, as stated by international laws, how do you think Nigeria can reintegrate these people back into the system? Because these are offenders. We already have enough that we're dealing with right here in Nigeria. And remember, we said Ike Ekweremadu also stands the chance of being repatriated back into Nigeria because of this pact that has been signed by the UK and Nigerian government. So my question is, how do we reintegrate these people, over 1,100 offenders, back to Nigeria? Are they coming back to Nigeria to serve their jail term, or it's just pardon and go, your sins are forgiven? Also, these asylum seekers that we have also exhausted, remember we have a housing deficit in Nigeria. We still have about 60% of the youth out of job. How do you think Nigeria plans on receiving these people and reintegrating them back into the Nigerian system?
Okay, thank you. So this will take us to the ministry in charge of diaspora, where Madam Abike Dabiri serves. Before now, we've been receiving people. This is not the first time we've been receiving people. We've had to receive people from Libya, we've seen people from Liberia, we've seen from different countries over time. And what have we done with those people? You know, you need to ask yourself what we've been doing now before this comes. I know some of those persons were integrated back to their family. I know of one lady, they got her a place where she started fashion designing because that's her area of expertise, you know. So I think we've done a bit of things in that area. But now, this is what should be a concern to us. We have about 916. For these 916 persons, what are their areas of expertise that would benefit us as a nation? You know, averagely, for anyone who has stepped out of the shores of this country for over a year, you expect some level of cultural change, some level of attitudinal change, some level of exposure that probably wasn't here. And so if the person is coming, it comes as a different person. I have somebody that had issue of this same deportation of a thing, 2006. One thing that shook me was the fact that he came. We were driving a car in this city. I mean, Abuja was not as busy as this then. And we were driving along Wuse route, and I was driving on speed. And he said, "Hey, Ima, you don't do this in the UK. Where are you going? 120 within the city. Oh, no. They will deal with you. You won't do it again." And I'm like, you know, and you know, that brought some change. I'm like, oh, really? Where am I going? 120? Speeding to, you know, am I trying to improve or something? So you expect that anyone who has been in Europe or wherever for at least a year, even if it's for 6 months, you expect some attitudinal change. You expect some cultural change. You expect that there's an exposure, there's a level of understanding that individuals should have. So what I expect the diaspora ministry to do is bring out these people, look at their profile, look at their area of expertise. There is one thing that was done during the time of our former president, Goodluck Jonathan, Nigerian Jubilee Foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what they do is they bring people who have a certain expertise and match them with those who want to learn, who need that kind of expertise. Those are the things you do. You have somebody who has worked there as an electrician, who has this expertise. Link him up with those who are in that industry in Nigeria, set him up, let other people begin to learn from it. That's how to benefit. Bringing these guys to just keep them is going to be a problem to us. Okay. You have those who have worked in catering industry. Because the thing is, we have a lot of places to accommodate these guys. We have a lot of needs. So it's for us to now sit down and begin to profile everybody. Don't just bring them into the country. No. Profile everyone from 1 to 0. Let everybody be profiled and begin to match them up with industries where they can be relevant. For those who are offenders, look at their offense. For me, that is even very important. You know, in the UK, if you are an offender, probably maybe a sexual offender or something, there's a way they profile you. There are places you can't go. That if you go to those places, you have to report to like a police station saying, now I've moved into this environment, so that they can say
everywhere you move to, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you have to do a kind of saying, I'm here now, you know. So for those who are offenders, what were their offenses? Were they criminal offenses? Were they murder cases? Were they having to hack somebody's system, cybercrime cases? Because I remember the FCC lead, I think the one said that there was a 20-year-old guy who practically took a smartphone and gave him his own name, and he was shocked. Now, but he saw it from another part that if this guy could be smart enough to use an ordinary phone, not an Android phone, to give me my own name, which is known to me alone, then there's something about this guy. So there are also offenders like that you don't want to set your eyes on their offenses, but you want to look at the level of wisdom, the intelligence in them to do what they have done, and take advantage of that intelligence in them to benefit our society.
More like rehabilitating them?
Yes. For somebody who is a cybercrime offender, you don't need to bring him and train him. He will do worse here if he has access to resources.
Because the environment
and then there's a lot of guys who are doing nothing. You will begin to recruit them to sit over the night on system and do a man of things. You bring that guy, link him up with the investigation committee of the Nigerian Police Force. Begin to work with them as an investigator. And all of the issues we are having, this guy will just sit in an office and begin to track in and tells you what needs to be done. So we are not receiving them at our own disadvantage. Yeah, it may look like we are receiving them at our own disadvantage because you talk about the deficit in housing. But, you know, in they said in a dark pot, you bring forth a white custard. I'm trying to, the Nigerian philosophy. So even though the pot is dark, but what we are bringing out of it is so clean. So these guys, whatever ethics they have as an issue, take your eyes off it. Let's look at how we can make them better a lot in Nigeria.
Wow, thank you.
Just finally, we heard Dangote, Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, talk about the fact that this deal, Aliko Dangote, he talked about the fact that this deal that Nigeria signed with the UK is going to open Nigeria up for other countries to come on board and even sign more deals with us. Do you see this happening in that line as well?
I do. Nigeria is a country of choice. Nigeria is a country where nobody wants to run away from because of our population and because of the opportunities. I told you, research had showed that in 2043 will be about 350 million then. Who doesn't want to do business with a country with about 350 million population? Or now that we are already above 200 million. So it means we have a lot of opportunities and potential. I believe neighboring countries too will want to do business with us because now with a port that is upgraded, it's easy for them to bring in their things. And some of them who don't even have big ports, they can actually use us as a point to bring in their product and take it to their country. So I agree with what he has said, that really that is going to open up opportunities to other African countries around us. And I think it's something we should take advantage of, actually.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel Akani, for your time with us. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We've been talking about the Nigeria-UK deal, of course, what it means for our country, Nigeria. And, of course, some of the questions we've asked, we've gotten answers to them. But one of the things that concerns us as well is the implementation of this. We do hope that the loan that has been gotten, the purpose for it can be achieved and actualized fully. If we take our minds back to the rehabilitation of the refineries there in Nigeria, we see that all throughout the previous administration, what we kept hearing as a nation is that these refineries are being rehabilitated, and until the administration was done with the administration, nothing was done in that particular regard. Now, some staff members from the NNPCL are being probed, and we do hope that the modernization of the Tinkan port and the Apapa port in Lagos State will not take the same toll. And that's some of the concerns, of course, that Nigerians are having regarding this particular deal. But let's get your final thought as well on this matter, Martha.
The most important thing is what you have said. We don't leave any loopholes. Ensure that everything is critically considered before this deal is taken. It shouldn't be one of those deals that you have already taken and then you start to regret that you have taken it because you see how it plays out. Also, our guest is talking about proper implementation committee. We set a lot of committees here in Nigeria. We might as well set one for this to ensure that there's a proper implementation plan for these projects. Just so we know, I would like to think that the UK is definitely benefits more than us from this. So we should not waste what we have left from what remains of us from this deal. So proper implementation plan will help us harness the resources we have and make sure that it is maximized to its full capacity.
Well, sir, that being said as well, this is where we are going to be drawing the curtain on the conversation today. Do remember that you can follow us on our social media pages across all platforms at RapidTV. And you can get to rewatch all our episodes, including today's episode, on our YouTube platform, which is at Official RapidTV. And wherever you are in the world, you can get to watch us live using our website, www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor RK.
And my name is Martha Alu. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.